What up, K-Swiss? Welcome to Turning Pro, the K-Swiss podcast where we interview amazing people that inspire us to chase after our dreams and make them a reality. Today, I have a super awesome guest, Ajla Tomljanovic. Did I say that right?
You said that right. I'm very
Hell
impressed.
Yeah. For the listeners and viewers, because we're doing this on Instagram Live, this will be on YouTube, and then this is actually our podcast, so it'll be everywhere.
Okay.
For the viewers and listeners, I have no clue who you are.
Okay.
Who's Ajla?
So I'm a professional tennis player. I'm 26 years old. I play for Australia, but I've been living in the States for the last 12, 13 years. And yeah, I travel all around the world all year long. So maybe after this podcast, you'll know a little bit more about me.
Hell yeah. What part of America are you living at right now?
In Florida, Boca Raton.
Florida?
Yeah.
Nice. So the opposite beautiful coast.
Very different from this part. I mean, I like it for now. It's really good for, when I come back from tournaments, I want to be calm and like a relaxing place. But like my mom is thinking I'm going to live there forever. And I'm like, Mom, you're too young to like love Boca so much. Like the average age is like 70.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah, people come there to like kind of retire, but it's good because like you have access to, Delray is 20 minutes away. So it's a good location, I guess.
Dope.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to go. I've never been there. I've only been to
I'm not surprised you've never been there.
South Beach.
Yeah.
And that was wild. I remember leaving there. I missed my flight because it was so crazy. And I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have had mimosas at the beach before a flight because I missed my flight.
No, Miami is very different from Boca.
So you are a professional tennis player. That's amazing, especially because tennis is such an insanely competitive sport, one-on-one. There's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rankings, but you're the elite.
Trying to get there still.
Humble.
Yeah. I think that, you kind of start out with like a dream, like as a kid. I mean, for me, just watching Wimbledon was like, whoa. So it was never about rankings or anything. It was just about being there. And then kind of when you get there and you play your first match, you kind of lose that feeling that this is what I wanted to do. And then you just want more and more. So it's a challenge to kind of stay in the moment and kind of step back and be like, okay, wow, I'm doing pretty good, But it's also good to keep that hunger alive.
Did you grow up in Croatia?
So I grew up in Croatia until I was 13, but actually the first 4 years of my life I was in Switzerland because my dad played team handball professionally.
Really?
Yeah.
Like handball?
Like team handball.
Team handball.
So it's kind of like basketball or soccer, but you do it with your hand.
All right,
yeah.
Cool.
And then I moved back to Croatia and was there until I was 13. And then it was always kind of what I wanted. I really wanted to move to the States for my tennis because I was always go to like these academies like in Bradenton or just around Florida. And I loved that everything was centered around tennis. Like even your school was modified. And we didn't really have that in Croatia. So I would always push my parents. Oh, I really love it here. And like give them little hints. And then eventually my dad was like, okay, like this kid wants it a lot. So, I mean, he was like, we can try and give it a go. So we actually never planned to stay this long. And then it kind of just, my sister, I have she's 2 years older. And she ended up playing college tennis. So
oh, no way.
It worked out for both of us. Yeah.
So does tennis run in your family then?
My mom played, but only kind of for fun. I think she stopped around when she was 20. But my mom's sister, my aunt, she played college tennis.
Gotcha.
So when my parents met, like my dad fell in love with tennis because he saw my mom playing. And then actually my dad was the one that would always like want to play with her. And then my sister actually started first. So I was like the kid that was always just following everyone around. And it's funny because like, you know how you do like these home videos when you're young?
Yeah.
And then I was watching them a couple years back and my mom was filming my sister practice with my dad. I think she was maybe like 5 and I was 3. And I'm like walking around in the back like with this oversized racket. And I just want someone to feed me balls. But I mean, I was 3. Who's going to want to feed a 3-year-old? Yeah. So I'm like, Mom, like, are you filming me? Look what I did. Like I would try to wait for the balls that my sister missed to hit.
Yeah.
And like it was so bad because my mom was filming my sister and she was like, oh yes, honey, you're doing so great. I'm filming you. So I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like no one wanted to play with me. So I had to just kind of fight for myself, I guess.
So that competitive nature has been with you ever since then, as a 3-year-old.
I mean, naturally, just I was always, and then like I was meant for individual sport. Because my dad was in a team sport, and he actually sometimes put us in like camps for handball or basketball. And it was just like, I hogged the ball. I didn't pass. I got mad if someone didn't pass. So he was like, okay, she's not for this.
What other sports did you play before tennis became like the one?
Honestly, I mean, I did that like one camp a year, but tennis was for like, I was kind of a freak. Like tennis was it for me, and I was the one that always like pushed for more. Like they put me in a group practice like 3 times a week when I was like 6, and my sister at the time had like her own coach. And I came crying from practice one time, and my mom was like, oh my God, like what happened? And the coach was like running after me. He was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make her cry. And my mom was like, no, don't worry. And then he was like, well, you know, she came to practice and I was sick for a week, so I didn't play. And I came there and there was like 20 other kids. And I was like, okay, wait, you got to feed me like 20 balls extra than everyone else because I got to catch up. Like, I've been sick. And the guy was like, it's not how it works. Like, you got to get in line, pick up 2 balls, hit 2 balls. And I was like, screw this. Like, I cannot. And then my parents were like, okay. Maybe she needs like someone, but I was sick because it felt stupid, you know, like you look like an idiot, like having a one-on-one coach for such a young kid.
I think it's awesome what you just said, which is that I was a freak. And the reason why like that really stood out to me is because all the elite athletes, they are a freak in a way. Like they're so focused on this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. It sounds like you've always kind of had that mindset.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I won't lie. There were moments when you're kind of like your friends are going out or they're going for a trip with the school and I'm going on a tournament. And for me, it never was a question like they say, like there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. For me, it never felt like that because it's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But I will say like little things like maybe I remember when I was like 10, this friend of mine, like we were all friends in school, like there was 30 of us, and he didn't invite me to his birthday party. And I mean, we were good enough friends for him to do that. And I kind of felt like left out, you know, because maybe I could have made it. And his answer was like, oh, I'm so sorry. You're never here. So I didn't think you would like be able to make it. And that was just like, oh, you know, it just felt like, but then, I mean, I forgot after 10 minutes because I went to practice. So it was fine.
You're like, hitting the ball, like.
No, like the good parts outweighed
exactly.
Yeah, so far.
This is a question that I'm sure you get asked often, but when, from your youth till when you became a pro, when did it click that you said, I'm going to be a professional? Like, when did that, like, come into your mind?
It was always, like, even when I was 10, like, I was taking all my tournaments so seriously, like, everything from my grips, like, I was weird. And then I think when my parents were like, okay, maybe moving to the States would be good for you. And then my dad kind of had a talk with me and he was like, look, if we do this, like, this is it, kind of like you just got to promise me that you'll do like whatever it takes, as in like, because he was also partly my coach a little bit.
Yeah.
And he would always travel with me and he's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, there's like no question. So formally, I guess my dad like had that talk with me, but in my mind, it was always what I wanted to do. But I guess when I moved, it clicked like, okay, this is now like...
This is real.
This is real in a way, yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Shout out to your dad. He seems like a really cool guy.
Oh, he's the MVP.
He's
and
the
my
MVP.
mom too.
No, that's really, really awesome. There was a few things I wanted to chat with you kind of off topic because your personality is so cool and interesting and different. Like, I know you're into music and fashion, things that we talked about. 2 things that stood out to me that I thought was kind of funny. Number 1 is that you like Grey's Anatomy.
Oh my God. And you know what's funny? So I did a charity 2 weeks ago. Chris Ebert has every year. And she was like, are you in town? Can you like play like some doubles and like, I don't know, go to a gala? And I was like, yeah, actually I'm in town. And she doesn't really, I didn't tell her who I wanted to play with, but there's an actor called Kevin McKidd that is like Dr. Owen Hunt on... Oh, you watch it?
Yeah, I'm from Seattle, so that's kind of like the show.
Okay, so I'm like thinking, I don't want to like sound creepy, but I really hope I play with him. I look at the schedule, I'm with him. Honestly, it was like one of the best days of this year. Like we just talked, he didn't give me the scoop, but he was just like asking me what I thought. It was amazing. And then he was like, we should play when you come to LA. And I was like, I don't have time. But it was awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
He gave you the scoop because I know you like those
No, he was like, I don't know anything. He said
podcasts.
he didn't know anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. I can't remember who we were with not too long ago. Oh, it was with the guys from Breaking Bad, Crazy Eight and Skinny Pete. They said that when they were filming the show, they wouldn't be told what's going to happen until like the day that they showed up.
Yeah.
Which
Same,
is kind of wild.
yeah.
I guess that's how you got to keep
maybe,
it like
imagine
secret.
if you like get drunk or something and you blurt
Spill
it
the
out.
beans.
Yeah. Or
I'd be
something.
that guy. Speaking of getting drunk, not that we're getting drunk here, but I read somewhere that you like fried chicken and waffles.
Love it.
What is it about it that you like?
I have a huge sweet tooth.
Okay.
But I also I like savory, but like bad, like so something fried or like burgers. So one time I went to brunch with my sister, and I just read chicken and waffles, and my first thought was like, oh my god, what is this? And then the waiter was like, no, this is like our best thing on the menu. So I tried it, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Which is funny. Rogers Cup this year, I'm about to go play, and like like before a match, you probably have like a little bit of rice, like chicken, keeping it really low key. Not many dressings, and then they were serving fried chicken and waffles, and I was like, this is torture.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't have it.
You ever been to Roscoe's over here in LA? Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles?
This
is your first time in LA?
So I
Damn.
mean, they made my schedule tough. I had like no time except that basketball game last night.
You have to like come back because Roscoe Chicken and Waffles is like a staple here in LA. There's one I think
Maybe I'll have time before my flight today.
Hopefully you do, because it's so bomb. I brought that up because I'm a big like brunch guy. Sunday brunch, Saturday brunch. Sometimes I'll do both. And there's a spot by where I live in Koreatown, and I always get the chicken and waffles. It's just like breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Do you put maple syrup a little bit?
Hell yeah. Of course I do. Yeah. So mimosa, waffle, chicken, like that's my thing. I would spill the Grey's Anatomy beans if we were doing that. I want to kind of go and shift gears a little bit into positivity because the whole aspect, again, of this podcast is turning pro and what it takes to become your best self and whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm sure that now that you're one of the top athletes, people look up to you and they ask you for advice and stuff like that. And I'm sure that there's certain things that you always say and do because you want to give the best advice, but then there's also tough times that you kind of have to like push everyone aside and be like, it's just me, it's Ajla, and you got to overcome things. So what do you do to motivate yourself?
Yeah, that's such a broad kind of question. I have like so many answers for you because I mean I had definitely, I'm 26 and I've had a lot of setbacks in my career because I kind of started out as being ranked like top 3 in my age group in the world, so there was always like a lot of expectation and talk like, oh, this girl is
She's
really
the
good.
one.
Yeah, and I was up until like 17, 18, and then I got mono and I was out for a year, and that was like my first kind of big like, whoa, like but I still didn't get it because I was quite young. Like my mind was like, okay, I'll just, wait for a year and I'll play. And then when I was 22, I had shoulder surgery. And as soon as when I got back from mono, like then the shoulder surgery, I was out for a year. I didn't play. And that's where it really kind of killed me because I was old enough to be like, okay, whoa. Also, I started thinking about my future. Like, what if I can never play? Like, what's my plan B? And that's where I did get depressed for a little bit. And I mean, it was very hard to see the finish line or like the light at the end of the tunnel because it was so far. And I remember my dad, after like 3 weeks post-surgery, he was like, let's go to the gym. And I was like, why would we go to the gym? I mean, my rehab hasn't started. I mean, I'm not going to train for a year in the gym when I don't even know when my comeback is. And he was like, no, we're going. So he like was probably the biggest part in me kind of staying sane, just because he made me do a lot of things that at the moment didn't make sense at the time. And now like I look back and okay, I didn't get injured coming back, which is probably why I had to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. I kept, busy. It made me feel like I still had a purpose. And I think for me, like if I were to get injured again, I would do it way differently. And I think that comes with experience. I mean, I shut down for definitely a long time because it was like tennis was all I knew. But then after a certain amount of time passed, I was like, okay, I would actually be totally fine if I stopped playing, because there's so much more to life also than tennis. So it was kind of like a blessing as well, as much as it was, you know, maybe the worst part of my life. And yeah, I think my parents and my sister were the ones that kind of got me. If it wasn't for them, I don't know how, maybe it would take me a lot longer to realize some things. But now it's still hard to keep that mentality, because tennis is brutal in a way. Like every week you're kind of a loser, because you, like, the amount of tournaments you win per year, sometimes there's a year where you don't win any. You're still doing
crazy.
well, but every week you've lost. So to keep that mentality of okay, I've still progressed, I've done good things, it's not easy. But I think, like, I've got that kind of story where I can always, like, look back and be like, whoa, I could have maybe been doing something completely different, because some people don't recover from shoulder surgery. So, now with 26, I wouldn't change the way my career went. But if you asked me, like, before, I would be like, okay, no, surgery, mono, no way. But it shapes you in a completely different person that maybe I wouldn't be, and I would take it maybe more for granted at this point.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's wild. Being in a competitive environment, like you just said, you could lose a whole year, but you're still doing well. That's something that I can't even comprehend, because winning feels amazing and losing feels like shit. You're like, damn, I can't believe I lost. And how am I going to get better? How am I going to get to this level? How am I going to compete against that person? Do you do anything meditative to just push shit out of the way and just hone in?
Yeah, my mom actually always is on me about meditating. And, you know, I haven't done it consistently enough where I kind of see the results. But I will say, for sometimes I did do it, and I definitely think it's actually gotten so popular in tennis that a lot of players do it. And I think with the way the world is going today, like, there's a lot of awareness around anxiety and depression. Mm-hmm. So I think that's, like, a lot of players are very open about it.
They should be.
As it should be, yeah. And I think meditation is huge with that, because, I mean, I think before, like, you would feel certain feelings, and until I think Marty Fish was the first one that kind of came out with that, and I think it was very brave.
Cool.
And now, like, you have these feelings before a match, and you don't feel stupid. Like, before, you would kind of be like, why am I feeling like this, or after, and it's normal. So I try to keep doing it, but I will say
It's not easy to do all the time.
It's not easy to do all the time. And for me, like, I'm the type of person, when I do something, I want to see results. I think meditation is kind of like a long-term goal. Mm-hmm. And but I've been trying to work on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm like you, where I've tried a bunch of different forms of meditation. I've tried, like, guided meditations. I've tried, like, breathing meditations. I've tried complete silent meditation, where I just set a timer. I sit down in, like, a dark room, and until the timer runs out, whatever's in my mind, like, that's what's on my mind. And that, it does help me, because, like you said, sometimes you feel dumb having feelings, but then you're like, why? I'm human. Like, I'm sure Mason over here, he's filming, we talk about this all the time. It's sometimes better to get that to vocally get it out, because people will, maybe they appreciate you more. You help them by sharing certain things, because they're like, oh, I was feeling the same way. Thanks
but you didn't know how to what to think about it.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I always wonder about that with athletes, because you only see, like, the best, right? The best part of people's life versus some of the hard parts, the shoulder surgery or whatever it is. Do you do anything else? Do you read anything?
I like reading just motivational stuff. Like, I mean, I was telling you earlier, like, when I'm feeling kind of down, I like to YouTube, like, Gary Vee videos or some other, just, like, I type in, like, motivational stuff, and
nice.
It kind of, I don't know, it takes me away from my reality, and then, it makes me feel a little better. But I like to keep my mind also away from tennis, because I think it can be a lot, you know?
Too much.
Too much, yeah. So I don't know, like I like to, like when I have time off, I like to just go away or do something completely different. That's why I like going to New York, see my sister, because she's working in for Merrill Lynch, so that's completely different from what I do. And it's just kind of cool to live somebody else's reality a little bit sometimes.
New York. You should pop by Gary's office.
Oh, that's where his office is?
Yeah, it's where is it? I mean, it's right.
I would die if I met him. I mean, I would just.
I'm sure it can happen.
Yeah.
We know some people. What books are you reading? Because I'm like you, where I love motivational stuff.
Yeah.
It's like my North Star in everything that I do. It's how I ended up here at K-Swiss. And it's why the brand resonates with me so much. So there's a lot of books that I read all the time, like focus on one. Is there one particular that you're reading?
So I have a book, The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So that one, and then the sequel. That one I've read a bunch of times, and it's the book I always take with me just because I like rereading it. And I'm not big on rereading books, but that one, I don't know, I've read a lot of different motivational ones or positivity, but this one I related the most because it was like there was no bullshit about you gotta stay positive. Like it was like, no, this sucks, like this is how it is, like, you know. So that one is the most real to me, I guess.
The subtle art of not giving a fuck, right?
The subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah, that's such a powerful. And it's true, like I just got goosebumps literally because some things you just have to be real about. And then you move forward. And I think that's what shapes you in the best form of yourself. Yeah.
Like I've worked with different psychologists like throughout my career. And when I was young, I was so opposed to it. I was like, I don't need a psychologist. Like I'm not screwed up.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm not weird. So then I realized like, okay, this isn't like, it's not shameful. Like but again, it took someone like, I don't know, Andy Murray talking about having a psychologist and then winning US Open to being like, okay, this is what people do.
Right.
So yeah. And I remember saying like, I was so scared before a match. And she was like, yeah, so like, is that like you're about to play like fourth round of the French? Like you think that's how many people have done that? So then it's like now when I'm like feeling these feelings, it's like, okay, this is normal. So it's not like I always try to convince myself it's not it, but you actually have to kind of embrace it and then deal with it.
I love that. That's great advice. Speaking of tennis and the French Open, right? Do you remember the first time that you set foot like on an actual pro level court and you're like, holy shit, this is it?
I did, but it didn't feel like anything crazy because I was 17. So I was still ranked outside of the top 100. So for me, ranked inside the top 100 was like, okay, you kind of made it because you're in all the slams. Mm-hmm. So you're not anymore having to qualify. And when I first played my like first big tournament, I felt like, okay, this is really exciting, but I'm not there yet. So for me, like the biggest thing was I qualified for my first Wimbledon, and that was my first slam in general. And I'm not a crier. Like I don't cry. I cry for when I'm sad, but not for like when I'm excited. And it was the first time I remember like winning qualifying, and like I just felt so many, like I wanted to cry. And it felt weird, but at the same time, it's something I've never felt. I don't think I've felt it in a long time since then because that was such a big moment in my career. And I remember then playing in the main draw and losing like 9-7 in the third. Killed me, but still like I felt like I've done so many, like it was a moment, you know?
Right.
And after that tournament, I was 130 in the world. So I had a lot of just momentum, and I felt like for sure at the end of the year, I'll finish top 100. So I went into the US Open and I was in qualies again. So I qualified, and it was totally a different emotion. It was more like, okay, like I kind of should have, like I expected myself to do this, which was still okay.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning my first main draw match. And like, I don't look at points a lot, but I knew just roughly that for sure after this tournament, I'm in like the top 100. So I lose the second round. And like after the slam was over, this is when the new rankings come out. So what was I ranked? 101. And I was like, this is just perfect, which is dumb because it's like 5 points, you know, but it's 101. So I had a next tournament, and now like I'm thinking like, wow, it's crazy how I wasn't nervous or something. I ended up like being 80 after that tournament, and that for me was like, just, it was crazy because like 80 in the world, and I don't know.
The world.
Yeah.
That, like, when you put that in perspective, that's just mind blowing because tennis is worldwide.
Yeah.
Like every part of the world, people play tennis. And to be, like you said, top 100, 80th, now 56th.
Yeah. I will say though, like I lost a little bit of that excitement when it comes to numbers just because, and I think it's not a bad thing, because now it's more about moments like that I experience and just being better. I think numbers it's just like, I'll tell you a story. I was at Wimbledon this year and I was kind of down. Like I was not happy with where my game was at, how I did in the European swing. And I think I was ranked 39 at the moment, which was my career high. And I was talking to my agent about my feelings, and he was like, he was like, what would you be happy with right now? Like your ranking. And I just said top 30. And he pulled up the points system and he did the math. And he's like, so you're 150 points away from happiness. And I was like, no, because if I was 30, I'd probably want to be 20. So that's where now I'm like, okay, being 56 or 30, I'd probably be happier 30, but it's not like, it's about going into next year and playing a great tournament, you know, making strides in different ways. And then you look at the numbers and they're better, you know. Before it was more like, okay, being top 100, it was just a moment that you had to make.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It's true. You're never satisfied, right? Sometimes we're always looking for, if I get this, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And it takes away from what makes you happy right now.
Yeah.
And we talk about that here at work a lot and just in general, because just stop and look around, you know? You're playing tennis professionally. You live in Florida. You get to travel the world. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, my dad always does the one, like when we're at a stadium warming up and he's like, Ajla, look where we are. And I'm just like, this is stupid. But then it's true. Like and when I'm done playing, I'm gonna regret if I didn't like just cherish it in the moment though, because you don't want to like look back and be like, oh, that was fun. Like you want to do it now. Exactly.
I do that when I come to work. Not today because it's all cloudy. But when I first moved here from Seattle, and I still do it when it's sunny, and I get off the metro, there's a specific way that I walk because I love just looking at the city and being like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I live in LA. I work in downtown. I work for a sneaker company. That's unreal.
It's amazing.
What, with your tennis skills, because I'm sure you got a whole bunch, what's like a secret weapon that you have? What's something that like, this is me?
Well, everyone knows, I mean, it's not a secret. I've been around a long time. My backhand is pretty good and I have a good serve. But I think what I kind of like to believe about myself is that like my secret weapon is the most just like my mind. Like I think when I am, like when my back's against the wall, I respond. And a lot of times, I mean, people think just if you have one bad tournament or this one, or they are like, okay, she's not good under pressure or this, but I don't know. I've had certain moments in my career where I think a lot of people doubted me, and I even doubted myself, and then I did respond. So and I'm not saying it's every time because it's not, but I think even doing it once, if you do it once, you can do it twice, 3 times, 4 times. And yeah, I think that's something that I still need to work on to just make it more consistent. Mm-hmm. But yeah, my mind was always tough because I mean the stuff I overcame, I think you got to be tough to do that. Exactly, especially like I said, and what you talked about in tennis, where it's 1-on-1 and there's only one winner. There's a huge tournament. Yeah, and also it's like if someone like I remember I was out for a year and this person came and he was like, "Oh, Ajla, you're always up and down." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this guy has no clue what I've been through in the last, like, 4 or 5 years, or what got me, like, or what a big moment it was for me to become 50 again after being nothing after, you know? And only, like, 5 people around me that are always with me know that. And I also learned that that's enough. Like, you don't need the whole world knowing or praising you. It's just like, you do it for yourself at the end of the day, because honestly, no one gives a shit once you retire who you are. It's always in the moment. So, I mean, even like Roger, when he's going to retire, like, let's say kids that are going to be born now, they're going to be like, oh, Roger Federer. Like, to me, Roger's like the god.
Yeah.
You know, but like, once you're out of it, like, people forget. And it's how I think it's just how the world works. So you just have to be happy with yourself and like, have little goals that you achieve, and not just do it for other people. Yeah.
I love that. That's probably what's really going to set you apart. I love that you said that your mindset is really what sets you apart, because if you have a strong mind, hence the book, like, you just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you the best.
Not the best yet, but the best version of yourself, I guess.
Which is good enough.
Which is what you need to be at the end of the day.
Do you have any advice? Like, if you could go back in time, I mean, now we're ending a decade. If you could go back 10 years to your 16-year-old self and give yourself advice, what would you tell yourself?
I think it would be a couple. First one would be that, like, the little things that seem like really not important, that they matter. Like, they make a difference in the end. I think I could have maybe done a little bit more. I'm a perfectionist, so, I mean, a lot of people will say, like, no, you did everything right. But I think I could have done just a little bit more growing up, like the little stuff that maybe would have made a difference now. And then I had a period where I compared myself a lot to others my age, girls that were doing better, and it gets you down for no reason, because you didn't start playing to be better than one person. You just played to be the best, tennis player you can be, and to be the best. But that for me, it didn't work like, okay, I'm gonna work harder. It was like, oh, I'm doing shit. So I would also think of it more as like a marathon than a sprint, because your career is long. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean if you're having a bad year at 19 that you're going to have a bad career. So yeah, and at the end of the day, it's all about, I mean, tennis is like, for us, like a dream hobby that became a job. I find it hilarious when we call it a job, because it's not. I mean, yeah, like, you have to get up every day and work, but you cannot compare it to what my sister's doing. Like,
right.
It's just,
exactly. Yeah. You're living the dream.
Yeah, basically.
Do you girls ever talk about that?
We actually do, but it's funny because my sister, she saw what I had to do to get to where I'm now, and she had the choice. She was a very good tennis player, but she didn't have that mindset of being a professional. She loved, college tennis was like the perfect combination for her, because she liked to compete, but she liked her partying, she liked her socializing.
Right.
And now she will, she came home for Thanksgiving, and she, like, I'm in my off season, so she came to a couple practices, and she wanted to join, and then she like bailed halfway. And she's like, screw this. Like, I don't know why you do this. And I'm like, I don't know why you get up and go to work from like 9 to 5. Like, right. I don't know how you do that.
Right.
So it's actually really good, because we both like what we're doing, mm-hmm. and we understand it's completely different. So yeah, there's no like, oh, I wish I was doing this, I like it.
That's
it's a good
so
balance.
Cool. That's awesome. Do you have any words of wisdom for anyone that's playing tennis and feels stuck?
It's funny, because I never, like, they talk about like role models or this, like, I never looked at myself as someone that someone's going to look up to. Like, I just did it for myself. And then I always thought, like, to be a role model, you got to be like number 1 or 2, like, you got to be, a star, complete, like, And then I remember, like, a couple kids came up to me, I don't know, throughout the year, and were like, really, like, they knew all my results, and were like, I've been following you, you made me want to start tennis. And I thought, okay, this was one. And then another one came, and like, it wasn't a lot, but maybe like 10 people. And you realize, like, you can make a difference at any level you're playing. And that kind of made me feel like, I don't know, nice. It was a completely different feeling, because I never started playing to be someone's role model. But I think if you have the right attitude about the sport and how you go about life, you're going to impact someone. So I don't know. I guess what always kept me going was just like working hard and keeping that dream like the main goal. And as long as you're you love what you do and you're having fun, there's no reason to stop. So, but as soon as if you do feel like, oh, this is not, if you wake up and you're not happy, then also you gotta reevaluate, you know? Yeah.
Dang, that's some wise words.
I don't know about that, but
well, thank you so much, Ayla. You're fucking amazing.
No, thank you. This is my first podcast.
That's so you
oh
nailed
my God.
it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just happy that I got it out of the way. So,
well, we're stoked to have you here at K-Swiss. Kind of, you know, just talking again. The whole thing about K-Swiss and like our focus are people like you. They're entrepreneurs in their own way. You're doing what is best for you. You're following your dreams and you're inspiring others, and that's amazing. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the conversation. Really, where do people find you on social?
Ajla Tom, and the J is silent, but it's AJLATOM.
The J is silent like Jane. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. Follow her on Instagram. Are you just on Instagram or are you on Twitter? Like what's
Twitter too, but I don't know, for some reason over like the last couple of years I've just been
IG.
Like so IG oriented. But I'm gonna
really
get
cool.
back on Twitter, don't worry.
Yeah, the Instagram is cool. That's where I was like, damn, this girl's got like dope style. Looks like she's having a lot of fun. So thanks for being on the podcast. Leave us a rating and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Cool.